Welcome, miladies of inestimable value. A woman who knows her worth doesn't wait for a man to recognize it. Sigma females embody this truth like no one else. They're confident, self-sufficient, and unapologetically selective about who they allow into their lives. But here's the thing. While most women are busy swiping left on dating apps, Sigma females are busy mentally swiping left on entire archetypes of men. Did you know that over 60% of women admit to staying in relationships longer than they should just to avoid conflict? Well, a Sigma female doesn't play that game. She's not afraid to walk away the moment a man shows signs of being a red flag wrapped in charisma. So what types of men should a Sigma female avoid like the plague? Let's dive into the kinds of guys who will not only waste her time but also risk ruining the sanctuary of independence she's worked so hard to build. And fair warning, if you're a nice guy with a victim complex or a wannabe alpha, this list might sting just a little. Number 1. The opportunist who sees you as a ladder. The opportunist who sees you as a ladder is perhaps one of the most calculated and dangerous types of men. He doesn't see you as a person with dreams, feelings, or a story. He sees you as a stepping stone to get to where he wants to be. Whether it's your social circle, career connections, financial stability, or reputation, this man aligns himself with you not out of love or respect, but out of self-interest. His charm and attentiveness are just tools to keep you hooked until he gets what he wants. At first, he might seem incredibly supportive, celebrating your wins and boosting your confidence. But his true intentions become clear over time. He only shows up when it benefits him. And when you need emotional support or companionship, he's either absent or half-hearted. He may start dropping hints about introductions to your network, using your achievements to elevate his own status, or even taking credit for your successes in subtle ways. A Sigma female who values authenticity above all else can't stand this kind of manipulation. Relationships for her are about mutual respect and growth, not exploitation. The opportunist's transactional mindset is a direct insult to her intelligence and independence. She doesn't need someone who's only around for the benefits, and she certainly won't tolerate being used as a means to an end. The most telling sign of an opportunist is how quickly they disappear when the benefits dry up. For a Sigma female, this man never lasts long. The moment she realizes his motives, she'll cut ties and walk away without looking back. Her value isn't up for negotiation, and she's not about to let someone reduce her worth to a transaction. She'll leave him searching for his next ladder while she continues to rise on her own terms. Number 2. The validation addict who needs you to complete him. The validation addict is the kind of man who will seem sweet and attentive at first, but quickly, his constant need for reassurance becomes exhausting. At first, it might feel nice. He's always complimenting you, always wanting to talk, and always seeking your attention. But then it starts to sink in. His entire sense of self-worth hinges on how much you validate him. He's not just complimenting you because he admires you. He's fishing for compliments himself. For a Sigma female who thrives on independence and self-sufficiency, this type of man is a complete mismatch. It's not because she doesn't appreciate affection or connection, but because she can't stand being someone's emotional crutch. A man like this doesn't want a partner. He wants a therapist, a cheerleader, and sometimes even a mother figure to tell him he's good enough. The real problem? His neediness can quickly turn toxic. If you don't give him the constant validation he craves, he'll spiral into self-pity or passive-aggressive behavior. He'll accuse you of being cold or too independent, flipping the script to make you feel guilty for simply existing as your confident, self-reliant self. A Sigma female doesn't have time for this kind of emotional labor. She values relationships where both people bring strength, not where one person constantly drains the other. And let's be honest, it's hard to respect a man who can't even respect himself. At the end of the day, a Sigma needs someone who stands tall on his own, not someone who needs her approval to feel like he's enough. A validation addict might seem harmless at first, but he's the kind of man who slowly chips away at your peace. And no Sigma female will ever tolerate that. Number 3. The passive-aggressive energy saboteur. The passive-aggressive energy saboteur might not seem like the worst man at first glance, but he's one of the most insidious. He's the type who never outright tells you how he feels or what he wants, but instead, he communicates through subtle jabs, silent treatments, or forgetting important things. He's not someone who will argue directly. Instead, he'll undercut your energy and emotional stability in sneaky, almost imperceptible ways. For a Sigma female, this man is a nightmare. She values clear communication and authenticity, and the passive-aggressive type is the exact opposite of that. He thrives on ambiguity, hoping you'll piece together his cryptic behavior while he continues to sulk or make you feel like you're always the problem. He'll do things like cancel plans at the last minute, show up late with a flimsy excuse, or dismiss your accomplishments with a backhanded compliment. Over time, these little actions add up, leaving you feeling drained and confused. What makes him dangerous is that he often disguises his behavior as harmless or even caring. He'll say things like, "I didn't want to bother you with my feelings," or "I just thought you'd know what I meant." It's an emotional trap, designed to make you feel guilty for his inability to communicate directly. A Sigma female has no patience for this. She knows her energy is too valuable to waste on someone who thrives on emotional games. She's not going to play detective trying to decode his moods, nor will she tolerate being subtly punished for things she didn't even do. While he's busy tiptoeing around his own insecurities, she's already moving on, reclaiming her peace and leaving him to sabotage someone else's time instead. Number 4. The alpha wannabe driven by insecurity. The alpha wannabe is a man who's desperate to be seen as powerful and in control, but it's all an act. He tries to dominate every room he walks into, speaks loudly to overcompensate, and constantly talks about his achievements, most of which are exaggerated, if not completely fabricated. Deep down, he's driven by insecurity, and the more confident a woman is, the more he feels the need to prove himself. To a Sigma female, this type of man is laughable. She can spot his desperation a mile away. True strength and leadership don't need to be announced. They're naturally felt. But the alpha wannabe doesn't get this. He's too busy trying to control every conversation, assert his so-called superiority, and make others feel small just to inflate his fragile ego. What makes him particularly insufferable is how he reacts when a Sigma challenges him, not by raising her voice or causing a scene, but simply by being herself. Her quiet confidence unnerves him. He can't handle the fact that she doesn't buy into his theatrics. Instead of respecting her, he'll try to belittle her, label her as too independent, or accuse her of not being feminine enough. This man isn't a leader, he's a poser. He's not looking for a partner, he's looking for an audience, someone who will stroke his ego and never question his authority. But a Sigma female doesn't play those games. She doesn't have time to prop up someone else's fragile self-image, especially when that person is constantly trying to undermine her own. The alpha wannabe may fool some people, but to a Sigma, he's just another insecure man hiding behind a loud voice and an empty crown. She'll leave him to his act and move on without a second thought. Number 5. The intellectual narcissist who thrives on one-upmanship. The intellectual narcissist is a man who mistakes arrogance for intelligence. At first, he might come across as impressive, well-read, articulate, and seemingly interested in meaningful conversations. But it doesn't take long to notice his real agenda. He's not talking with you. He's talking at you. This man thrives on one-upmanship, and every discussion with him feels less like a connection and more like a competition. For a Sigma female, this type is exhausting. She values deep, thought-provoking conversations where ideas flow freely, without judgment or the need to prove superiority. But the intellectual narcissist isn't interested in mutual exploration of ideas. He wants to dominate. He'll interrupt, dismiss your points, or condescendingly correct you to assert his supposed intellectual dominance. Instead of appreciating your insights, he'll nitpick them, trying to make you feel small just to make himself feel bigger. What makes him unbearable is how he masks his insecurity as intelligence. He might disguise his jabs as humor or sarcasm, saying things like, "Oh, that's cute, but here's the real answer." He thrives on being the smartest person in the room, and anyone who challenges that, especially a confident Sigma female, becomes a threat. Sigmas have no time for this kind of energy. They don't equate intelligence with arrogance. and they certainly don't tolerate anyone who tries to use knowledge as a weapon. To her, intelligence is about curiosity, growth, and mutual respect, not ego battles. The intellectual narcissist may impress some people, but to a Sigma, he's just another insecure man, hiding behind big words and a fragile ego. She'll leave him to argue with himself while she seeks someone who knows that true intelligence is as much about listening as it is about speaking. Number 6. The follower who can't handle your leadership. The follower who can't handle your leadership is the kind of man who's all too happy to let others make the tough decisions, until that person is you. He's someone who lacks direction, constantly looking for others to steer his life or give him purpose. At first you might feel like he appreciates your decisiveness and strength, but over time, his true colors show. Your natural ability to lead doesn't inspire him, it threatens him. This man doesn't know how to coexist with a strong, independent partner like a Sigma female. While he may initially lean on you to take charge, he quickly grows resentful. He begins to see your leadership as a reflection of his own shortcomings, and instead of working on himself, he'll lash out. He might make passive-aggressive comments about you being too bossy, or accuse you of not letting him be the man. His insecurity becomes a constant weight, dragging you down as he struggles to reconcile his dependence on you with his bruised ego. For a Sigma female, this dynamic is unsustainable. She doesn't lead out of a desire to control, but because it's in her nature to take action and solve problems. She respects men who have their own sense of direction, who bring their own strength and independence to the table. A follower, especially one who resents her strength, is the opposite of what she values. The truth is, this man doesn't need a partner. He needs a caretaker, someone to carry him through life while he blames them for his lack of growth. A Sigma female will quickly recognize this and walk away. She knows her strength isn't the problem. It's his inability to handle it. She's looking for an equal, not someone who fears her power. Number 7. The fixer who thinks you need saving. The fixer who thinks you need saving is a man who can't seem to grasp the concept that a Sigma female doesn't need anyone to rescue her. To him, your independence is a challenge, something that needs to be solved. At first, his actions might come off as caring, offering unsolicited advice or trying to make things easier for you, but there's an underlying problem. He doesn't view your strength as something to be respected. He sees it as something to be fixed. The fixer believes that in order to be valuable, he must be needed, so he begins to view every part of your life through the lens of how he can make it better, often not realizing that his attempts to help are patronizing. He might start suggesting ways to manage your career differently, advising you on how to handle your finances, or subtly implying that you could be better if you just took his advice. What he doesn't understand is that a Sigma female thrives on her autonomy. She's fully capable of managing her life without someone hovering over her. The irony is that the fixer doesn't see his actions as controlling. In his mind, he's being a good partner. But to a Sigma, it feels like an intrusion. It's exhausting to be with someone who constantly believes you need guidance when you know exactly what you're doing. The more he pushes, the more you'll pull away, because his help isn't about making your life easier. It's about feeding his own need to feel important, needed, and in control. A Sigma female doesn't want a man who tries to fix her. She wants someone who respects her strength and independence. She doesn't need saving. She's already more than capable of navigating her own life. When the fixer realizes that, he'll find himself out of the picture. Number 8. The boundary violator who tests how much you will tolerate. The boundary violator is the kind of man who sees your personal space and limits as mere suggestions, not rules. At first, he may start with small, seemingly harmless actions, overstepping a little here, being too persistent there. But over time, his behavior becomes more blatant, subtly testing how much you'll tolerate before you speak up. He doesn't respect your boundaries. He views them as challenges, as if the more he pushes, the more control he gains. Whether it's in terms of personal time, emotional space, or even physical proximity, he continuously stretches the line, probing to see how far he can go without facing consequences. For a Sigma female who values her autonomy and emotional safety above all, this behavior is a huge red flag. She's fiercely protective of her boundaries, understanding that these are the lines that keep her grounded and whole. When someone repeatedly violates them, it's not just an inconvenience. It's a direct threat to her sense of self. What makes the boundary violator dangerous isn't just the overt disrespect, but the subtlety with which he does it. He might try to gaslight you, making you feel like you're being too sensitive or overreacting when you assert yourself. He might brush off your no with a charming smile or a comment like, "You're too serious, relax," or "Come on, I was just joking." But to a Sigma female, this kind of behavior is manipulative and toxic. She knows that if someone isn't willing to respect her boundaries from the start, there's no room for trust or a healthy relationship. A Sigma female won't stick around for long with someone who constantly tests her limits. She'll shut it down quickly, without hesitation, and walk away. To her, boundaries aren't negotiable. They're non-negotiable. And anyone who doesn't understand that isn't worth her time. Number 9. The masked charmer, obsessed with image maintenance. The masked charmer is one of the most deceptive men a Sigma female can encounter. On the surface, he's perfect, smooth, charming, and seemingly confident. He knows exactly what to say, how to say it, and when to flash that disarming smile. People are drawn to him like moths to a flame, and at first even a Sigma might feel intrigued. But it doesn't take long for his true colors to peek through. Underneath that polished exterior lies a man consumed by his own insecurities. His charm isn't genuine, it's calculated. He thrives on controlling how others perceive him, and the moment you start peeling back the layers, you'll find nothing but manipulation and emptiness. He'll use compliments to disarm you, flattery to distract you, and subtle mind games to keep you second-guessing. For a Sigma female, this type of man is a disaster waiting to happen. She's a natural at reading people, and once she senses that his authenticity is just a mask, the respect she had for him vanishes. A Sigma values depth and honesty above all else, and the masked charmer offers neither. He's not interested in building something real. He's interested in maintaining his carefully crafted facade. What makes him dangerous is his ability to manipulate without being obvious. He'll frame his lies as half-truths, his ego as confidence, and his control as care. The longer you stay, the more you'll realize it's all about him. Your feelings, your needs, your boundaries, they don't matter. A Sigma female refuses to be anyone's puppet, especially not for a man who thrives on deceit. The masked charmer may fool many, but he can't fool her for long. When she walks away, she'll leave his fragile ego shattering behind her. Number 10. The man who demands your compliance, not your partnership. The man who demands your compliance, not your partnership, is one who believes relationships are about control, not equality. He doesn't want to build something mutual and empowering. Instead, he wants to dictate the terms, often subtly at first, but eventually making it clear that he expects your submission. He'll try to convince you that his way is the only way, twisting love and care into a demand for unquestioning loyalty. He's the kind of man who thinks being in a relationship means you must surrender your will to his and follow his every lead. For a Sigma female, this is a deal-breaker from the start. Sigma women value their independence above all else. They thrive on autonomy, the ability to make their own decisions, and the freedom to live life on their terms. The idea of relinquishing that control, even for a second, is not only repulsive, but it's also a sign of a toxic dynamic that's bound to suffocate her. A Sigma female doesn't need anyone to guide her or dictate her actions. She's perfectly capable of navigating life on her own and thrives when she's in charge of her own destiny. The man who seeks to control will inevitably clash with her strong sense of self. Any attempts to bend her will to his are seen as a betrayal of her very essence. To her, a partnership is about mutual respect, trust, and growth, not about power struggles or submission. A Sigma female won't stick around for long in such a dynamic. She'll spot this red flag early and walk away because she knows that anything less than equality and respect in a relationship is simply not worth her time. In the end, a Sigma female is a force of nature. independent, intelligent, and fiercely protective of her emotional and mental space. She doesn't need to be saved, fixed, or led. She needs a partner who can meet her at the same level of strength, respect, and authenticity. The men mentioned in this list, the opportunist, the fixer, the follower, and the boundary violator, are not merely mismatches. They are distractions that drain her energy and waste her time. For a Sigma, these types are a stark reminder that her value is not to be compromised for anyone's comfort or ego. A true connection with a Sigma female is built on mutual respect, deep understanding, and a shared commitment to growth. She's not interested in games or manipulations, but in a partnership where both parties can thrive independently and together. So, if you're one of the men who fits these descriptions, it's time to take a long, hard look in the mirror and ask yourself, are you ready to meet a Sigma on her level? Or are you just another person trying to cling to the ladder she's already climbed? In the world of a Sigma female, only the strong, self-aware, and emotionally intelligent survive, and those who truly deserve her will rise to meet her not as a challenge but as an equal. Anything less she'll leave behind as she moves forward with confidence, ever committed to her own growth and happiness. If you've found yourself resonating with these truths, recognizing the value of protecting your peace, and understanding the power of the Sigma mindset, then you're exactly where you need to be. Don't let this moment pass. Hit that subscribe button and join a community of like-minded individuals who are unapologetically forging their own paths. This channel isn't just about insights, it's about empowerment. So if you're ready to embrace your own strength, elevate your mindset, and learn more about the truths that will set you free, make sure to subscribe now. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Let's rise together. Thanks for watching, Jules. See you in the next video. Bye for now and stay blessed.